You won't believe what happened when my daughter and I had a run-in with the HOA cop. Someone who acts like he's in charge but really has no clue who he's dealing with. It all started on a quiet afternoon in our neighborhood, when this guy showed up out of nowhere, dressed like he owned the place, ready to flex his so-called authority. But things quickly took a dangerous turn when he pulled a gun on my daughter. Just imagine that, a gun pointed right at someone who hadn't done anything wrong. It was terrifying, and honestly, it felt unreal in the moment. What he didn't know, what no one did, was that my daughter isn't just any ordinary person. She spent years training with some of the toughest people on the planet, including Navy SEALs. That part of her life is something most people have no idea about. It's a world full of discipline, skills, and calm under pressure, all of which she needed right then more than ever. So, when the situation exploded, it wasn't just fear and confusion. It was a battle of wills, experience, and survival instincts coming into play in a way no one expected. This story isn't just about a scary moment with a neighborhood authority figure. It's about the unexpected clash between appearances and reality, authority and truth, and how sometimes the people you think are in control aren't as powerful as they believe. As we dive deeper into what happened next, you'll hear the full story, the shocking aftermath, the lessons learned, though the consequences nobody saw coming. But for now, let me take you back to that exact moment when everything changed. In the blink of an eye, and the true strength of my daughter was put to the ultimate test. You won't want to miss what happened next. Before that day, our neighborhood always felt calm, the kind of place where everyone knows each other, and life moves at a steady, quiet pace. The Homeowners Association was usually just a formality, a group that handled rules about lawn care or parking, nothing more. But recently, a new cop had started showing up, someone who clearly took his role way too seriously. He wasn't a real police officer, but he dressed the part, carried a badge, and acted like he had full control over the streets. Most people tried to avoid him, sensing something off. But no one imagined it would come to this. My daughter has always been strong, confident, and level-headed. But her toughness comes from a place few know about. For years, she trained in intense environments alongside Navy SEALs, learning how to stay calm when everything around her is chaos. She's not just physically capable. Our mind is sharp and trained to handle pressure like few others can. Yet, despite all that, even she wasn't prepared for the shock of a gun being drawn in our own neighborhood. The moment that gun appeared, everything shifted. What should have been a simple conversation turned into a tense standoff. Questions raced through my mind. Why did this HOA cop think it was okay to escalate things like this? What was he really after? And how did he not realize who he was threatening? The air was thick with confusion and danger, but beneath it all, there was an unspoken challenge, a test of who held the real power in that moment. As I watched everything unfold, I realized this was more than just about one man's overreach. It was about authority, fear, and the hidden layers beneath the surface of our quiet neighborhood. The story isn't over yet, far from it. What happens next will reveal just how deep this conflict goes, and why some truths are better left uncovered after that tense standoff. Things in the neighborhood didn't just settle down. They cracked open, revealing problems nobody wanted to face. The HOA cop, whose real name we later found out was just some guy hired privately, seemed to think he had a blank check to enforce rules his own way. But what he didn't understand was that people here had lives, stories, and boundaries he wasn't allowed to cross. For my daughter, it became personal. This wasn't just about a stranger pointing a gun. It was about respect, safety, and knowing when someone crosses a line that shouldn't be crossed. Behind the scenes, I started to dig deeper. It wasn't the first time this cop had caused problems. Some neighbors whispered about aggressive behavior, threats, and even intimidating people over minor HOA disputes. But no one had ever called him out, maybe because they didn't want trouble, or maybe because they weren't sure what to do. Meanwhile, my daughter kept her cool, but inside, she was ready. Her Navy SEAL training wasn't just about physical strength. It taught her to read situations, assess risks, and plan her moves carefully. She knew this wasn't just a random incident. Something bigger was at play. On top of that, there were other layers unfolding. The HOA board seemed divided. Some backed this cop, thinking he kept order, while others quietly questioned if things were getting out of hand. The tension wasn't just between one man and my daughter anymore. It was splitting the entire neighborhood. People started to talk more openly. Some even worried about what might happen if this cop pushed too far. It was like a powder keg waiting for a spark. As I watched all this unfold, I realized the story was far from simple. It wasn't just about fear or authority. It was about what happens when power goes unchecked, when people assume control. Without accountability, in the middle of it all, stood my daughter, ready for whatever came next, but knowing that the true battle was just beginning. Days passed, but the tension in our neighborhood didn't ease. If anything, it grew heavier, like a storm waiting to break. The HOA cop was still around, his presence more unsettling than ever. He seemed to act bolder, as if daring anyone to challenge him. My daughter and I both knew this could spiral out of control, but no one expected how fast things would escalate. We started noticing small signs: neighbors avoiding the usual strolls, hushed conversations behind closed doors, and more than once, a sharp look from that guy whenever my daughter walked by. It was clear he hadn't forgotten what happened. And maybe he was waiting for a moment to push things even further. Meanwhile, the HOA board meetings turned into battlegrounds, with people arguing over the cop's role, whether he had any real authority, and what to do about the mounting fear in the community. Some wanted to stand up to him, others feared retaliation. My daughter stayed calm, but I could tell she was preparing for something. Her training with Navy SEALs wasn't just a past chapter. It was her mindset now, alert, ready, and sharp. She spent hours reviewing what had happened, going over every detail, every possibility, trying to anticipate his next move. The neighborhood felt like a powder keg. We were stuck right in the middle. One evening, just when the sun was setting and the streets began to quiet, that uneasy feeling hit us again. The HOA cop appeared unexpectedly, and this time, he didn't hide his intentions. The air grew thick with unspoken threats, the kind you can feel but can't put into words. Everyone was holding their breath, waiting to see how this would end, if it would end at all. That moment was the tipping point. Everything we thought we knew about safety, control, and authority was about to be challenged in a way none of us were ready for. The real test was just about to begin. Just when we thought things couldn't get any worse, the story took a sharp turn none of us saw coming. One night, I got a call from a neighbor who sounded shaken. She'd overheard a conversation between the HOA cop and someone on the phone. Something about plans that went far beyond parking tickets or neighborhood disputes. Suddenly, it wasn't just about control or intimidation anymore. It felt like there was something deeper, something dangerous lurking beneath the surface. As we dug a little more, pieces started falling into place. It turned out this cop wasn't just a hired security figure. There were rumors he had connections to people involved in shady activities, and his aggressive behavior was covering more than just his own insecurities. The neighborhood was caught in the middle of something much bigger, and my daughter's stand against him had put her directly in the crosshairs. This wasn't a random encounter anymore. It was becoming personal in ways we hadn't imagined. Meanwhile, the HOA board's division grew worse. Some members suddenly started acting strangely secretive, refusing to answer questions or meet with residents who demanded transparency. It felt like a conspiracy was brewing right in front of us. And all the while, the so-called cop kept pushing boundaries, as if testing how far he could go without consequences. The line between safety and threat blurred, and the entire community was on edge. My daughter's training became more critical than ever. She wasn't just preparing to defend herself anymore. She was trying to uncover the truth behind this web of deception. But with each step closer to the truth, the danger grew, and the stakes became higher. What started as a simple confrontation had turned into a battle over trust, power, and survival, and no one knew how it would end. After everything unfolded, the neighborhood slowly started to breathe again. The immediate threat was gone, and the man who called himself the HOA cop was no longer part of our lives. The HOA board finally stepped up, holding meetings that actually focused on transparency and safety, not power plays or hidden agendas. People began to speak openly, sharing their concerns and hopes for a community where respect mattered more than control. It was clear we all wanted the same thing, a place where families could feel safe and neighborhoods could thrive. For my daughter, the experience was a reminder of how important it is to stand firm, even when facing something unexpected or frightening. Her Navy SEAL training had taught her not just how to defend herself, but how to remain calm under pressure and protect those she loves. That strength made all the difference, and it helped us face a challenge we never saw coming. But beyond that, it showed the importance of knowing who you are and what you stand for. No matter the situation, though the deeper threat behind the scenes wasn't fully uncovered. Our neighborhood was more united than ever, watching out for one another and refusing to let fear take hold again. The story left a lasting mark, a reminder that sometimes the biggest dangers come from those pretending to protect us. And that courage often comes in quiet moments of standing your ground. As this chapter closes, we keep moving forward, knowing the fight for safety and trust isn't over, but confident that together we can face whatever comes next. If there's one thing this experience taught us, it's that true strength isn't about weapons or authority. It's about community, courage, and standing up for what's right, even when the odds seem stacked against you.